after that experience, I cut that recipe from the book and I made a very important decision that guided me throughout the process, which was I am not going to include any tomato sauce recipes in this cookbook unless they are either really different from anything I've had before or incredibly easy.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rodbard. Today on the show, I welcome in Dan Pashman. Dan's the host of The Sporkful and author of a great new book, Anything's Possible. Now, this book was inspired by Dan's creation of a pasta shape, and really it's a tribute to pasta cookery around the world. Dan is such a great talker, and I so enjoyed catching up with him. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Hey, Dan Pashman, welcome to This is Taste. What is up, buddy?
Hey, Matt. Great to talk to you.
It's great to talk to you and have you back on the show. And first off, way to capture the drama of a cover cookbook photo shoot. You have aired or will be airing a 4-part series that details Anything's Possible, your fantastic new book. And I have made five cookbooks myself, so I understand the drama. You captured it so well.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I wanted so we're doing this multi-part series on The Sporkful that tells the behind-the-scenes story of the making of my cookbook. And yeah, I was, when I first embarked on the project, a lot of friends would say to me, like, how do you actually come up with the recipes? Like, what's the actual process of making a cookbook? Even people who bought a lot of cookbooks didn't know. And I thought it would be cool to really kind of get into all the drama and the angst and the ups and downs and the the triumphs and tragedies. And so I recorded hours and hours and hours of audio to put together this 4-part podcast series, and I was rolling through it for a lot of the photo shoot, and there was definitely, as you know, Matt, picking the cover is a big decision. A lot of people have opinions about it, and including my family.
Yeah,
and it was fun to capture that on tape.
And this Anything's Possible book is full Dan Pashman, and I mean this. I'm going to say some things about the book real quick. You have done something that is very hard, which is do a pasta book or a general concept book and make it new and fresh and interesting. And you've really done a cool job of not just weaving in cool recipes from a number of contributors and yourself, but also just really smart editorial decisions. Really readable. I love this book.
Thank you. I mean, that means a lot coming from you because I know that you know your way around a cookbook. Since I was a kid, I've always kind of been allergic to doing whatever everyone else is doing. When we had to pick a language to study in 5th grade, it was the choices in my public school were French and Spanish. And then before I filled out the form and I picked Spanish and I got into school the next day and all the kids are talking, what are you taking? What are you taking? And everyone else was taking Spanish. So I crossed out Spanish and took French, which was a terrible mistake. And I really regret it. But in other respects, my instinct to go against the grain has served me well. And, I just felt like the world doesn't need another cookbook of the same 25 to 50 pasta recipes. You don't need another lasagna recipe. You don't need another marinara recipe. I'm not against those dishes. They're delicious, but I just didn't think that I had anything to add on that front. But I feel like there's so much more that people can and should be putting on their pasta beyond the basic 5 or 10 pasta sauces that tend to dominate. And so that was really, I kind of set out with that goal of how can I broaden this base and get as creative as possible. I mean,
your pasta fairy godmother, Evan Kleinman, a fellow podcast host and radio host, calls you or your ethic the Dan Pashman weirdness. And I think she's articulated a point of view that I respect. And, what was she talking about when you guys were talking about in the early days of this book that there needed to be some Dan Pashman weirdness going on?
Well, yeah, I mean, because I was sort of saying to her, I want to employ other cuisines. I mean, that's a big part of this cookbook. It's not, I wouldn't call it Italian. Certainly, obviously, it's pasta, and there are some Italian dishes in it. But we're doing kimchi carbonara. We're taking the South Asian spiced meat dish keema and turning it into keema bolognese. To me, sort of anytime you're starting with a ground meat dish, and of course, there are amazing ground meat dishes in cuisines all over the world, that lends itself to a meat sauce. But why do we have to just make it bolognese over and over again? We're doing keema bolognese.
Yeah.
And so things like that, or shakshuka and shells, which is something I do. I make a lot of shakshuka at my house. Throw pasta in there. And so and there's a million other examples like that of using ingredients from other cuisines, cacio e pepe with chili crisp and optional Sichuan peppercorns.
Yeah, and I think you got like labish cascatelli, which is the pasta shape you invented. We'll talk about that. You've got the samjang aglio olio, which I think is really I want to try it. I'm skeptical, but I'm open minded about it. But I do think, just to your point, that pasta has been put in such a narrow box in the publishing world, and what you've done here is have an open mind and open hearted take on expanding the possibilities. To quote your title,
Yeah.
And you've done such a cool job with it because it really is cookable cuisine.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I'm not a trained chef, and before I wrote this cookbook, I had never developed a single recipe in my life. So first off, I worked with an incredibly talented team of recipe developers and collaborators for the book, but also, you know, like I started off in the process, to be honest, kind of having a certain amount of like imposter syndrome, feeling like, you know, who's gonna want my cookbook? Well, you know, why should anyone listen to me? And by the end of the process, I came to see my lack of professional culinary training as a strength and not as a weakness, because I think that it helped me to put myself in the shoes of the reader. Because I'm not a pro, but I'm an avid home cook, and so I really put a lot of thought and effort into the way that the recipes were written to try to make them as clear as possible, to not use jargon, to not assume that the readers know things they might not know, because I felt like, you know, if something comes in from a recipe developer and it's confusing to me, it's probably going to be confusing to readers. So I wanted the book to be fun. I wanted it to feel like this is going to broaden your horizons. You're going to cook pasta dishes you've never dreamed of before, but it's going to be written in a way that you're going to be able to, you're going to have success. It's not going to be confusing, and you're going to have great results.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your pasta sauce decision tree, because
Yeah.
I think this is a really smart editorial tactic, because you, of course, have all these global, you know, pantries and palettes that are really touched upon. But then you get into some of the nuts and bolts of actual cooking with pasta, and you have made this decision that we obviously cook with pasta sauces in jars, but you know what? We don't love them. Most of them are kind of not great. But there's ways to make them better. And, you know, I think a lot of recipe developers have tried to do this, but you've done it with a flow chart, man. God bless a good flow chart. Nice work there. So what are you trying to fix, and what is the ultimate outcome?
Well, I actually don't know that I think of it as fixing. I mean, I think that there have been in recent years the introduction of some really great jarred sauces. I mean, jarred sauce maybe, you know, 10 or 20 years ago was a bit of a wasteland. But I think now there are some really great ones. But my feeling was like, so early on in my cookbook process, I tested a recipe for a sirloin ragu. It was like basically like an upscale tomato-based meat sauce. And it took close to 2 hours, a lot of simmering and cooking down. And it was very good, but it didn't taste that different. It tasted like a slightly better version of something that I'd eaten a lot of times before. After that experience, I cut that recipe from the book, and I made a very important decision that guided me throughout the process, which was I am not going to include any tomato sauce recipes in this cookbook unless they are either really different from anything I've had before or incredibly easy. And the incredibly easy section is just start with jarred tomato sauces. Buy a really good one and use this decision tree. Do you want it spicier? Well, what kind of spice? Do you want a sweet spice? Do you want a peppery spice? Do you want a savory spice? You know, follow the flow chart, and this will tell you things you can add. Do you want to make the jar more substantial? Here's a vegetarian way to make it more hearty. Here's a meaty way. Here are ways to add texture. Here are ways to incorporate different cuisines or make it more savory.
Make it Indian, for example. That's like one of the like little boxes you can go down, which I think is so genius.
Right.
You know, add a little bit of cream to it. Add a little bit of texture. Make it lighter. I mean, add some like liquid. I mean, it's really, really sharp.
Thank you. And so, and I think there's probably like 15 or so different kind of destination points in that one flow chart of different types of tomato sauces you can end up with just by buying a jar of sauce. And sometimes it's just as simple as adding a couple tablespoons of something. Sometimes it could be like, okay, roast an eggplant and then scoop out the insides and mix it with your tomato sauce. And now you just sort of made this jar of sauce much heartier. And so I love that part of the book. And, testing it was a lot of fun. And I think it's certainly one of the highlights.
This journey started with you inventing a pasta shape, which I'm going to link to in the show notes, along with your cookbook journey. You've done a 4-part series or multi-part series on creating the cascatelli, which is waterfalls in Italian, and really a cool story. And so you went to like Dakota State University's pasta lab. You created this pasta shape. It went even to the world of Bonza, which is amazing. It became a gluten-free pasta. But let me ask you, how the hell is it going with this pasta shape? I mean, is it like hitting your Chase account? Are you getting some residuals these days, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, the pasta shape is going better than I possibly could have dreamed. I mean, Cascatelli is in stores all over the place. The original version is made by Sfolini, based in upstate New York. They're in a lot of stores around the country. You can also order it from online from their website, sfolini.com. And Bonza makes a version, as you say. And it's been incredibly exciting. I still, like, sometimes I'll go into a store and see it there, and I'll buy it just because I'm like... I'm just still excited. I'm like, oh my God, my shape's here. I'm gonna buy it. I can get it for free, but I'm gonna buy it anyway.
No, man. We've all done that with our books and our products.
Right, for sure. It's just fun. So yeah, I mean, it's been incredibly exciting, and it's also just like cool that I can share it with my family. I have kids who, when I started on the Cascatelli journey, they were 7 and 5. They're now 13 and 11. And, most of the time you have a success in your job, your kids don't really care. But inventing a new pasta shape was something they got excited about. And like they'd see their friends on the school bus. Their friends would say, I tried your dad's pasta shape. So that's been like super exciting.
You know what? I know you can't pick favorites, but I think your 11-year-old. I mean, get her a show. Hilarious. What is her name? And give her some credit because I think
Emily, my younger one. I mean, they're both. And it's been funny.
They both are. Yeah.
They're both in the Cascatelli podcast series, and then they're both in this new cookbook series about the making of anything possible. You can really hear them growing up. And the older one is sort of in like preteen, early teen phase of just sort of like whatever I say, she's going to shoot it down in a very snappy way. The younger one, I mean, she's hilarious, and she
very funny.
Right. I mean, they both dish it out. They both get tired of me. I mean, one of my favorite moments is, I talk about this dish called pasta pizza with the younger one, Emily, and I say, so I have this idea for this thing called pasta pizza. She goes, oh, so it's like a pizza, but the crust is pasta? And I'm like, yeah. Do you want to know more about it? She goes, no, because I know if I ask you, you're just going to go on for like an hour. So I'd rather just avoid that.
No, it's really good time, well timed. I mean, really funny. And by the way, that pasta pizza is super good, and I like the way that you unpack how you discovered it and developed it. I think it's a really, really smart idea. And obviously, you're embracing the kind of cookability of pasta. Everyone loves pasta in restaurants, but also we love making it at home because it really is a 30-minute meal in most cases.
For sure. It's super easy, and also like to me, and this was important to me with Cascatelli too, and it's important with this new cookbook, Anything's Possible, that I just feel like pasta should be fun. Pasta is fun. It's a comfort food. Like, yes, there are high-end dishes, and yes, I think there are some like very thoughtful dishes in this cookbook and recipes and ingredients, but like at the end of the day, I think that eating pasta should always tap a little bit into sort of your inner kid. It is a comfort food, and I wanted the book to be fun, and I wanted the dishes in here to feel fun.
You know what's not fun, Dan? And I'm going to be honest, and people are going to not be liking this statement, but it's not fun making fucking fresh pasta. That is not fun.
No, and that's the two things that are not in this book.
You agree with me? I assume.
Yes, I did it once in home ec class. I brought freshman year of high school with my home ec teacher, Mrs. Flaker. Yes, that was her name. And we made fresh pasta, and it was very delicious. And I never did it again. It's like making marinara sauce from scratch. I don't know why you would do it. You can buy good fresh pasta in the grocery store, and dried pasta is just as good. And
dried pasta is really good in many cases. So, and really, yeah.
I don't know. There is a part of me, Matt, that kind of like looks forward to the day when my kids are out of the house and I have like a cold winter day. I have all day on a Saturday for a project, and I'm just gonna like put on some music and pour myself a drink and have a relaxing day in the kitchen, and then sure, maybe I'll make some fresh pasta because I want to do something that takes a very long time and produces minimal results.
I mean, bro, I'm watching
the process.
Bro, I'm watching Lioness. I'm watching Tyler Sheridan TV. Like, I'm not making project cooking, and I'm really kidding because I know a lot of our listeners do that stuff to decompress and have different jobs because we're obviously very privileged to be part of this as our world, but we get to do food stuff for our day jobs.
Look,
but
if you enjoy the process, then have fun. I'm not saying you if it makes you happy, then do it. I'm just saying that like it's not worth it to me, And I think it's not worth it to a lot of other folks. And I think that a lot of books that just, are going on and on about making fresh pasta and spending 3 hours making marinara sauce are kind of like awfully aspirational.
It is. And I think to your point, there's wonderful products, both fresh and dry, available. And you can definitely work on the sauces, in that 30 to 45 minute window, which is not a short amount of time. And I just think you honestly aren't getting a better product by like doing your own gnocchis. I mean, I'm just being honest, but we don't need to troll anymore on the fresh pasta game. I want to let you troll something else that you are very adamant about.
Yeah, let's troll.
And it's a pasta shape called spaghetti. I'm
I've heard of it.
Quote unquote sucks in your opinion. And I would say, explain yourself, sir. Not sure I agree. And also, aren't like wagon wheels worse? Because I feel wagon wheels to me is the worst pasta shape.
Wagon wheels are worse.
Okay, good.
The wagon wheels it might be the worst shape. They were invented I believe in the 1930s by an Italian company called Benedetto Cavalieri, and the eponymous founder, Mr. Cavalieri, he said, "Yes, I understand that the shape cooks unevenly, but that's part of its charm." And he was wrong. With all due respect, from one pasta shape inventor to another, Signore Cavalieri, it cooks too unevenly. I've bought Benedetto Cavalieri's own wagon wheels, which cost like $15 for a pound, just to try them, and they cooked more unevenly than cheap wagon wheels. I mean, it's like eating pasta mixed with uncooked rice.
I guess they call that dente in some parts of the world.
Well, there's actually an Italian term. I think it's called al chiodo, which is like more than al dente. It's like similar to a nail, like that you would hammer with, which to me is not what I want my pasta to be. But yes, wagon wheels are worse. But spaghetti, look, a quality spaghetti cooked well can be delicious with just the right sauce, but it has very minimal uses. It does not hold most sauces very well. If the sauce has any kind of thickness or weight to it or any kind of pieces, it's going to be very difficult. We've all had the experience of eating a plate of spaghetti with marinara or some kind of bolognese or meat sauce, and you finish the pasta and half the sauce is still on the plate.
Yeah.
That's not a feature, that's a bug. And, it's also just like difficult to get a good bite on the fork. I mean, it's not very well engineered. You twirl a bite of spaghetti on the fork, and usually you're either going to get too much spaghetti on the fork or not enough. You're going to get danglers that are going to get all over your face. It's
sloppy. It's sloppy.
It's very messy. Look, spaghetti was one of the first pasta shapes invented, and I believe the first that was industrialized and mass produced. So it's important in pasta history, and it has a lot of nostalgia and romanticism attached to it. But for the same reasons, it's also very primitive.
Yeah.
It's a very primitive pasta shape, and I just think that we can do better.
What about angel hair then? I mean, is angel hair part of it? Are they catching strays? Is angel hair catching strays in this statement that spaghetti is trash?
I don't like angel hair because it's very flimsy. People say, "Oh, well, when it's cooked right, it's very good." Well, I mean, the window of optimal cooking time for angel hair is like 3 to 4 seconds long.
Yeah, completely.
So
right.
It's almost impossible to cook it right. It's almost always going to be mushy and all clumped together. And so to me, it's just like I like a pasta that's meaty and tooth-sinkable that I can stick my teeth into. And that was certainly one of the priorities when I was inventing cascatelli, and it's one of the priorities for me when I'm doing other pasta shapes.
Let's dig into the keema bolognese. I jumped at that recipe right away when I got the PDF of the book, and I know you talk about it on the episodes, and I was happy to hear that. But I think it's such a cool idea, and I'd like you to give us a little sense of that dish in particular, kind of how it was developed with you have many, I think 4 or 5 developers you worked with, maybe more. But how did that like kind of come to light, and what is this dish?
Yeah, so this one is one that I worked on with one of my recipe developers, Asha Lupi, who we nicknamed in the process the Saucy Spicestress. Asha is on Instagram at From Head to Table. She's an incredibly talented recipe developer. She does stuff for Diaspora Co. She's also contributed to a lot of the top publications out there. She's got a great newsletter that I recommend people subscribe to. And, she and I just like have very similar, we just like a lot of the same flavors. So like, I explained to her, here's the concept of the book. I want to push beyond Italian food. She also used to work in Market Hall Foods in the Bay Area, which imports a lot of Italian goods. So she knows pasta, but she also has a very, diverse palate. And so she was the one who was like, how about keema bolognese? She grew up eating keema. She loves it. And it was very much like, we're going to make keema. It's, ground meat, Indian spices, and we're gonna toss it with pasta. And but it's kind of, it's got the spices of a traditional keema, but it's also got dairy like a bolognese, and so it brings together a lot of the same flavors. And then we do it with an egg pappardelle, which is so good. And then originally when she wrote the recipe, she said it's optional if you want, you can add yogurt. So I tried that, and I was like, this is not going to be optional. This is mandatory.
I mean, real ones know that adding a little bit of yogurt to pasta is like a real killer move. I mean, I really love adding a zero fat yogurt. It's not too heavy and cloying like sour cream, and it adds that like mouthfeel and texture that I think like a lot of butter will do, but it doesn't add that like kind of heaviness and obviously the extra calories. So I love that call. I think you could add yogurt to a lot of different pastas.
I think that's smart, and in the way that I think a lot of Italians will put a scoop of ricotta cheese on top of a pasta dish.
Yes.
You could instead do yogurt, and it will do a lot of the same work, but with a little bit more tang.
Yep. Let's talk about pan grattato. I hope I pronounced that right. You make this very smart move of you have 4 or 5 recipes in the front of the book, and you're adding it to many of the dishes. And it's kind of this idea that we have seen in recipes, but for me hasn't been fully articulated as this kind of flexible way to add some great texture and additional flavor to bowls of pasta. So what is this?
Yeah, so first off, I'm a huge texture eater. Texture is a big part of why I gravitate towards certain foods. And so I knew going in that I wanted texture to be a big part of this book, because in Italian pasta culture, they combine a lot of different textures in their pasta dishes. And certainly, as you know well, Matt, across Asian noodle and rice dishes, texture is a key component in so many different dishes. And I feel like somehow when the classic pasta dishes came to America, they didn't get that memo. I'm very fascinated with this concept that sensory scientists call dynamic contrast. And it's the idea of different textures coming together in the same bite. It's something that you might not know that term, but you gravitate towards dynamic contrast. It's the same reason why all the best candy bars have like a sort of like crispy exterior chocolate shell, and then your teeth hit something gooey, and then something chewy, and then something crunchy, and there's nougat, and there's wafers, and there's caramel, and there's chocolate chips, whatever it is. There, as you bite through a candy bar, you experience the different textures, and I wanted bites of pasta to have that experience. And one of the best ways to do it is pan grattato, which are seasoned toasted breadcrumbs. Now, in Italy, they're typically going to do just like breadcrumbs, maybe a little, garlic, parsley, oregano, some herbs. I wanted to expand the idea of what a pan grattato can be. So we did one that's corn nuts, a lime corn nut pan grattato. So you smash up corn nuts and toast them in a pan with some lime zest. Smart
to add lime. Like lime is not, you don't connect lime zest and pasta, but it's clearly essential in bringing acidity, and adding it to pine nuts is just like such a smart move.
For sure. And honestly, I had a tough time getting that one all the way to the pasta, because I'd be eating it out of the bowl with a spoon.
Yeah.
But you sprinkle any one of these pan grattatos, seasoned toasted breadcrumbs, over a pasta dish, and it adds this not only flavor, but crisp. It adds crisp to every single bite, and completely takes the texture and the eating experience of a pasta dish to a whole other level. And, these pan grattatos take 5, maybe 10 minutes to make. You can freeze them and defrost them and sprinkle them on a pasta anytime. You should just always have them around.
I mean, also just to say, take away the pasta, add like a steamed broccoli, a steamed or boiled green bean, and you're adding pan grattato to a vegetable side, and you've got like that really nice Italian-style vegetable.
100%.
But I know this is not a vegetable book, so you're not even going to talk about those, because
no. But like in the pan grattato section, I do list like, you can put this on. You can put this on these pasta dishes in the book, but you can also put it on green beans. You can also put it on this or that, because I wanted people to understand that like these pan grattatos are very all-purpose. They're very useful. You can make a big batch and freeze them. One of them goes great on a Caesar salad. One of them, I do an everything bagel pan grattato. That's just, you can sprinkle that on buttered pasta, and it's like eating a buttered bagel. So they're incredibly useful, and it's such a quick and easy way to make a huge difference in something you're cooking.
This is a really smart book, Dan, and I just bravo to you and your team just for pulling it off. It's wonderful to hear about it. Let's talk a little bit about the sporkful, because I want to get a sense. I mean, are you still like super into podcasting and radio content? Because I'm joking. I mean, we're at like we're into almost our 400th episode here, so we're obviously into it ourselves. But honestly, it's a really interesting time right now for this medium that we love so much and that our listeners love. And what is your take on like the future big F of podcasting in the food and drinks and lifestyle space?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's been the podcasting boom has receded. There's been some shows that have been canceled, and sadly, a lot of really talented folks have lost their jobs. It's not the first time I've been through a phase like this. I mean, I started the Sporkful after getting laid off from 6 jobs in 8 years, most of those in radio before the time of podcasting. I started the Sporkful in 2010, largely in response to that. So no one likes to go through these times, and my heart goes out to folks who've lost their jobs. That being said, there were an awful lot of podcasts being created because it got hot, and there was probably a bit of a bubble. I think that the idea of human beings connecting via the spoken word is about as old as time, and it's not going to go anywhere. The distribution system may change, the business model may change, but the idea that human beings are going to be connecting this way won't change. And right now, and for the foreseeable future, I think that podcasting is going to be the way that human beings connect through spoken word. And so I think that as a concept, it's going to continue to remain strong, and there will be ups and downs like there are in any industry, in any medium. And so, I think that we probably needed this reset in our industry a little bit. But I think that the other thing, Matt, is that human beings have always done is connected over food. So we've always connected by talking to each other and sharing stories, and we've always connected over food. And that's good. To me, that means that food podcasting is going to be around for a very, very long time. As the business side of it will have ups and downs like any industry, but I still, I think I'm optimistic that you and I will be here chatting many years from now.
Yeah, thanks for that optimism, and I agree with you fully. I still think it's early innings for what we do in the food space, even though you've been doing it from basically spring training. I mean, you've been using metaphor. I mean, you are one of the originals, but I still think the audience potential is massive, and people think of one thing with a food podcast, and there are a lot of them, and I think what we do here at This Is Taste and what you do at the Sporkful and a few others is very special and unique and not like a lot of the other podcasts about food and lifestyle, because we really connect with our audience. We all feel it every week when we put out episodes, that when you hit me on Instagram or you write into our letters inbox, and I'm sure you get this as well, this is the engagement that I don't get from the printed word. This is not the engagement I get even from social media. So I think there's a real power here in having these conversations every week. I just love it. I love this job, and I feel very fortunate to be able to do it.
I totally agree, Matt. I mean, I think that and that's why I was drawn to the audio medium I had a college radio show. When I graduated from college, I wanted to host my own radio show, which became Host My Own Podcast. So I think that the connection that you have with people through the audio medium is very special. I don't think that social media can replicate it. I think as soon as you add video and pictures, it degrades the level of connection.
150% is why we're not really doing video here. 100%. So you're hitting the road. It sounds like you've got a lot of tour dates, and I'm going to link to in the show notes. In general, what's the future of the Sporkful? What are you up to for the next year? I know you just did something with Sola and Ham, which I thought was terrific. What's the future like?
Yeah, I mean, look, right now I'm focused on the book, and I'm hitting the road for anything as possible. Going to be doing a series of live Sporkful podcast tapings with some incredible folks, in conversation with folks starting off in New York City. My book tour / tour of live podcast tapings has been called by some extreme / aggressive, but I love getting out on the road, and I love meeting the people who listen to the Sporkful, and I'm open and excited to meet new folks as well. And I'm in conversation with some incredibly talented and exciting friends and folks in the world of food media and beyond all over the country. And you can get all those dates and details at sporkful.com/tour.
You really have a talent, man. And I really am such a fan of your audio work, and now of your cookbook writing. And it's been really fun talking with you. On This Is Taste, we ask us about their discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire, fast and furious taste check. Dan, are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
The best fruit.
Lemons.
Never been said on the show yet, and it's like truly the best answer.
It's so good. Lemons. I have lemon wallpaper in my kitchen. That's how much I love lemons.
That's great. The worst vegetable.
Raw broccoli. I love cooked broccoli. I love broccoli cooked a million different ways, but raw broccoli, like on a crudité platter, the worst.
Yeah, it's hard to hang with raw broccoli. And then even worse is when it's like raw broccoli plus like pesticides and like the fecal matter that wasn't washed off in the triple washing.
Oh man, thank you, Matt. At my next cocktail party, I'm going to be bringing up fecal matter when I walk in the crudité
Yeah,
platter.
it's called a poopy platter. Let's go there. I'm going there while we're at it. All right. The best dessert.
I'll give you two real quick. Number one, Dairy Queen Blizzard with extra candy in. And
triple X. I love it.
I go up to the counter. I say, money is no object. I don't care how much you upcharge me. I want quadruple peanut butter cups in here. Then you can see like the teenagers, eyes get wide. My upscale answer is that when I was in Italy doing research for the cookbook, I was in a town called Vico Equense near Sorrento. It's near the Amalfi Coast, and they have a gelateria there called Gabriele, and I had something there called Delizia al Limone. This is getting back to my lemon theme, and it's kind of like a cake with like a frosting, and they put like I don't know what they put on top of it. It almost seems like melted gelato. I don't even know. I don't know what it was, but it's absolutely incredible.
I love the way that you weave. You have a lot of Puglia in the book, which I think is cool. And I love the way that you brought in all these like touches from your trip to Italy. Also, on the note of Dairy Queen, having like a $38 Amex bill from Dairy Queen is like impressive.
I can tell you, it's a 59-cent upcharge per extra topping. So I know that upcharge well. I see it on my receipt all the time.
Your favorite American fast food chain?
I'll say old school Burger King, new school Shake Shack.
Yeah. Bingo. I mean, not bingo on the Shake Shack. The Burger King is fair. But Shake Shack is definitely, I think, so kind of underrated at this point because we have so many of them. But it's just so good, so consistent. Your favorite cookbook of all time?
I guess I'll say Jerusalem by Yotam Ottolenghi and Sami Tamimi.
Love that pick. That's such a great pick, and it's probably about 15 years old at this point.
Yeah, love that book.
Your favorite new cookbook discovery?
I mean, this isn't super new, but I love Priya Krishna's Indianish.
Yeah.
I just love it. It certainly was a big inspiration to me for Anything's Possible, and just the way that it blends different culinary traditions in a way that I think felt very not trying too hard, just very natural and organic to the way that people in America cook in kitchens. And so I really love the way that she blended cultures and cuisines in that book, and I certainly took a note from it for my own book.
I love that call, and it's really well said and well observed. I think that both of you are very linked in with the way people actually cook versus the way food media projects cooking, and I feel like it's really smart that you use that as a reference point. Well said.
Thank you.
Your favorite city outside America to visit for food?
I haven't done a ton of international traveling in the past few years since I have become more, more interested in food. So I'm gonna twist your question a little bit, Matt, and I'm gonna say the city that I'm most excited to go to is London, because I did study abroad in London when I was in my 20s and on a student's budget and less interested and knowledgeable about food, and I ate a lot of not good food. And I know that there's so much better food in London now, and how far the food scene there has come, and I'm dying to go back and to eat my way across London.
Well said. Great call. I mean, it's the most international city in the world for cuisine. It beats New York for sure. And it's just such a different city than many assume, I guess you could say, that traditional British cooking, which is only a part of the conversation in London. I hope are you going to go there for an episode, you feeling?
I mean, I've been talking about going to the London Podcast Festival every year for the past few years, and it never works out in my schedule. It's always like the weekend. It's like right when school is starting for the kids and whatever. It never pans out. But I would love to go back. I haven't been back in a long time.
Couple more. A cuisine you would like to learn more about?
Japanese cuisine.
Yeah.
My kids are 13 and 11, and they want to go to Japan. My wife and I want to go to Japan, and we're just waiting for the kids to get a little bit older. And I think I can imagine a family trip to Japan, and I want to eat my way across Japan and engage in the broader culture and history.
I love that, and I hope you can record yourself along the way. I feel like you just give your kids a show, man. They're really funny.
Yeah. I'm going to give them the sporkful. I'm going to retire, Matt. That's
for sure.
My plan.
It's a family business.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go sit on a beach somewhere. Let them work.
The Sporkful and Daughters.
Yeah.
It's like the rebrand.
Yeah, I like that. Sporkful and Daughters. Yeah.
Right. In like 10 years, it's like the rebrand. I love it.
Like Russ and Daughters.
Exactly. Same font and everything, dude.
Yeah.
Last one, your favorite sandwich?
Peanut butter and jelly.
What's the jelly?
Wild blueberry from Bon Maman.
What's the peanut butter?
it's going to be, I mean, if I'm feeling like spoiling myself, it'll be Jif. Otherwise, it would be like a peanut butter with no sugar added. But to me, the key is that you must do the jelly on both sides and the peanut butter in the middle.
Oh, of course. Well said. Of course, you got to do that.
Really? I thought I was the only one who did that, Matt.
No. It's always more jelly.
People give me
Always.
such a hard time about this. Every time I say it, they're like, "How can you do that? The knife's gonna get jelly on it, and the jelly's gonna get in the peanut butter."
Don't worry about the knife. The knife can survive. Last question: the bread. What's the bread choice?
It depends on what I have on hand. Probably something grainy, something with a bit of texture. Maybe, like a good 7 grain with a little bits of nuts, sunflower seeds, or something like that. I want the bread to be doing some work. All right, I want to be adding something, some flavor, some texture, some additional components.
I was thinking you're going squishy industrial bread, but man, I like the let the bread work.
No, this is like an artisanal PB&J that I'm eating.
No, of course.
No,
And I love
PB&J is the one sandwich, the one food. Maybe not the one. I shouldn't say the one. PB&J is a sandwich and a food that is delicious and appropriate and welcome at any time of day or night, any day of the week, any situation. I've had it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, afternoon or late night snack. I do not get on an airplane without at least 3 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in my bag.
Yeah,
because there could be a delay, and I'm not going hungry.
I mean, it can last a week in your bag.
Yeah.
I mean, try it.
I don't usually even make it till takeoff because I get very excited.
No,
about the sandwiches in my bag, and I can't even focus on anything on the flight until I've eaten my sandwiches.
Right. No, I love that. That's a great move. It really isn't. Maybe are we talking about peanut butter and J abilities? I'm trying to actually the possibilities of peanut butter and J. I'm just like riffing on like ideas for titles.
Well, look, if enough people buy this cookbook, maybe I'll do a sandwich book.
Brother, I would love to see your sandwich book out in the world. Let's make this happen.
I got a lot of opinions.
Smash that buy button. It's a terrific book. Dan Pashman, thank you so much for joining This Is Taste.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
This Is Taste is hosted by Eliza Abarbanel and me, Matt Rodbard. The show is produced by Shalia Harris and Pat Stango and edited by Clayton Gumbert. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter for updates on all cool things that are happening.